Well, hello and welcome back. We are here for the ZRL WTRL Racing. It's season 3 of 21-22. We are in week 2. I'm Kate Bates, joined as always by the wonderful Dave Towle. You're at the end of a long shift, Dave, so I hope you have a chamomile tea or maybe a espresso martini maybe, ready to go. Dave, last week we started with a scratch race. This week we're back to the team's time trial, but we've already seen the teams that have a bit of intention in this season.
Yeah, good day to you, Kate, my all-time favorite, as we get ready to go. So, hey, I got to say, we have seen the tables just getting flipped upside down, everything scattered as far as we've seen teams come from taking a win and falling back to 6th, teams from 8th place win. It's been absolutely bananas out there today. The only team that I've seen go back-to-back winning last week in a scratch race, and we should talk during the race about why that scratch race was special, because I think that the way that was run was fantastic. But it was no surprise, Aeonian, the only team that has won both the team time trial. Well, actually, that's not true. There are other teams, but that I saw in our broadcast. But it took everything they had, Kate. It wasn't, they weren't running away with things out here. So absolutely awesome. This is a great course. I think you're going to love it. Well, you already raced on it, or they raced earlier today in APAC. I forget that you start the day. I get an alert when I'm asleep at about 3 a.m. here in Colorado that says Anna and Kate are hard at work. And I'm like, good on them.
Yes, we work while you sleep.
Yeah,
Dave, I think it's like, make hay while the sun shines or something like that.
right.
And you're right. And I think a lot of that, we can talk about it more when the riders are out on course, but certainly to do with the bringing back of some of the Premier League riders, I think has changed the dynamic and lifted the standard again. I think every season it could be bingo where we're saying it's hard to imagine that the standard could get lifted anymore. Now they are out on course for the Greater London Flat. It is 28 kilometres but 2 laps. So if you don't like that first lap, well, buckle in because you've got to get around for another. Before we go down to the riders, because they are heading out on course already, Dave, let's hear from Cy Bradley about what he expects to come.
Welcome to London for stage 2 of the Zwift Racing League. It's a team time trial and it's on the Greater London Flat. One of the fastest courses in game for team time trialing. 28.9 kilometres, just 150 metres of elevation on this one. 3 power-ups to look at here. We've got the aero, the draft and the feather, and it's all about communication when utilising those power-ups as a team. We've got a long lead-in, just over 5 kilometres, and it's in that lead-in at kilometre 3.5 that we have the biggest challenge, the longest drag and incline in this course. It's 800 metres long, 5% maximum gradient. You're going to need 6 riders if you want to top that table and set some fastest times. So get all 6 riders up that climb if possible. You're going to pick up another power up when you go through the start-finish banner properly here on the red roads of the Mall, and then again at the start of lap 2. Team time trial is all about maintaining speed, keeping the pace on the front as high as possible at all times. Stay efficient, have fun, and ride on. Right, let's go find somewhere to watch this race.
Dave,
Clever,
he's
huh?
a cracker. And I was looking at the rain in the background. I thought these developers are all over it because that's kind of what London is like, especially at this time of the year. Thankfully, the only precipitation the riders will be getting is probably from their sweat if their fans aren't turned up high enough. Let's jump down on course and see the pictures because they are out there already. We'll get a feel for how they're going.
Racing in a team time trial, Kate, in the rain would be particularly brutal with the road spray coming up because obviously being aerodynamic and sitting right on that wheel is critical, which means you would be in direct, it'd be like having a fire hose hitting you in the face with, I guess it depends on where in the world you were, but you never know what's spraying up off the road. So NZ Bro took the win last week, and this is the point structure. It's pretty straight ahead. The team with the most points, that was based on the entire team's performance. Same thing today, but in a different way. The entire team's performance matters. Here it's everybody racing together, getting the time of the 4th rider over the line. Most teams will start with 6. It was just a free-for-all, a Donnybrook, Kate, if you will, last week out there. And that was a standard points race, but minus all of the bonuses. So it was all in for the finale, and you had winners and losers in that scenario. Obviously, New Zealand-based NZ Bro was the winner in that one with 20 points. Dutch Diesel Cycling Xena 19 for second. ATP Racing Vespid 18 for third. West Coast Coalition had 17 in fourth. Cadence in fifth, and then Team F3W. So let's see how this gets flipped around or turned around, or if it does at all out here. Is NZ Bro going to stamp their authority, Kate, on this season out here? I guess that's a question we'll have answered for you in about another 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, look, really good question, Dave. And I think I'm always interested that NZ Bro are racing in this time zone and not APAC. APAC starts at about 7:15 in Australia, which makes it 9:15 odd, depending on daylight savings time in New Zealand. So these ladies are actually racing kind of early afternoon instead of in the evening, which I don't think seems like such a bad choice. And in the APAC, the men NZ Bro team is exceptional. We've talked a lot, quite extensively, Dave, in APAC about NZ Bro, their development. So you don't see it in this time zone, but you would be all over the Australian Development Esports Pathway, which is Aero. And they're the Australian Esports Racing Organisation, and they develop some of the most incredible Australian esports talent, including, of course, the Hill brothers, who we know from the World Championships. On the New Zealand side, they Jay Vine as well, yes, absolutely. He came from them as well. So it's been just a huge success program, and they're about 5 years into that now. NZ Bro are essentially the same. They're just a few years behind because they're a newer organisation, but their talent IDing is incredible. So they have one of their Olympic rowers, John Story, rides in the men's team. And it's great to see the women's team and some development as well there. So I think that across all of the different leagues, whenever the time zone does suit, we can expect more and more for NZ Bro to become a really formidable force. They tend to have riders, Dave, that are, I know I've said it before, like lungs on bikes, exceptionally strong athletes. That. And what they do is they kind of teach them how to race and bring them through. And that is what we've seen kind of across the board. And this group of women are no different.
Kate, I'm curious, actually, as we get the women out on course here, and I'm going to run through who's on this team here. I'm going to ask the question and let you think about it for a second before I come back to you. So, other sports ever tried to recruit you? As you said, lungs on bikes. It makes me think of some athletes I've known through my time in sport where talented athletes, the Olympic committees, like especially for lack of a better term, fringe sports, they would look at the benchmark sports like cycling would be a sport where maybe you know what I'm saying. To make a long story short,
I do, yeah.
Do other sports recruit you?
No, and the way it works in Australia, and that's a really good question because it's quite interesting. And the shorter answer is no, but the reason is because from a very young age, I was at a very high level. And there's like a little bit of I would normally say like gentleman's agreement, but let's
you don't steal from another sport,
that a little
right?
bit. Is to not steal elite. So talent ID goes on quite ferociously at sub-elite level. So riders who are just missing out on national teams and Olympic teams, there is a lot of poaching that goes on there. And the other time that it quite aggressively happens is when the rumour mill starts that an athlete, an Olympic level athlete, is, a little bit itchy and deciding what they may want to do with their future. And then often other sports will come in and say, oh, hey, heard you, got a bit of a funk. Why don't you come across? Yeah, or injury.
Right, like maybe... Yeah, something like you have this unbelievable runner and she somehow has something happen with her knee, but she can still cycle. Maybe a coach might say, hey, let me point you over to Australian cycling as you still have this desire. We've seen actually that's happened with Michael Wood, a world tour rider from Canada, where he just couldn't run anymore. I mean, gosh, I don't know if you ever had shin splints in your life, but there's certain things that make it very, very hard to run. That's for sure. So, yeah, it's a fascinating subject. A great athlete's going to be a great athlete. Cycling and, sports like rowing, cross-country skiing. You can train a great rower up. Let me reference one, Jason Osborne. If you've got those lungs on wheels, they can do it. So this team now is DDC. They're in the mix here. Ashley Yip, all-time favorite. Daniela Torelli, Diane Mitchell-Prey, Gail Matherly, who's we just had on screen. Now I see we've got Ashley Yip. Jack Cat and Sarah Northway make up this Dutch Diesel cycling team. They've become very familiar to us, Kate. Not only the kit, which we love, but this team has got a lot of heart. They're in the mix here. You can see 9:24, so fastest split right now at 6K. We'll check in at 14 and 22K as well today. But ATP Racing Vespid in with a 9:30, 9:39. It's going to be close, no doubt about it, Kate Bates.
Well, and wasn't it interesting because we've been, that's like my buzzword today, Dave. I need to Google synonyms for interesting. Is that last week, Dutch Diesel weren't the force that we thought that they could be. And we have become so used to them being so dominant, not only in the overall results, but at every point along the way. And I want to say on that specifically that in some cases, you can watch a race, especially a points race in Zwift, and you know who's going to be on the top of the table and who's not. But there's other occasions where actually it's a little bit more underhanded the way that they collect their points along the way. And often you'll see the overall team leaderboard afterwards and go, well, gee, they did a really efficient job of doing that. So DDC ended up really well overall last week. They were in second behind NZ Bro, but we didn't see a lot of their jersey at the front of the race. I guess that was kind of the difference. But they are just another phenomenal talent pathway that has come through. And I think that DDC and NZ Bro, if we look back at the last kind of 2 years, are the really big teams making an impact on that front.
Yeah, I think I used the analogy earlier, Kate, about two dogs fighting for a bone and a third one coming along and taking it while those two are fighting. And it's somewhat similar with the DDC technique. They just sort of are there. They'll pick up points. They're always quietly, not sneaky so much as methodically. They're collecting points, and when it was all said and done, when you look at the tally, they would end up on top. This is ATP honey-powered team that we've got out here. I've always been a big fan of this kit and what this squad is all about. And this racing is super close. 5-second difference there. Actually, again, 3 teams. You know what? You're interesting, Kate, for me, is saying again. I am really going to try to stop saying that. It's killing me how much I do that. So, again, that being said, no,
again,
yeah, right. So Caden's fastest time with a 9:19. Ooh la la, they are smoking.
Ooh.
So they were the last place team coming
last
in,
time, Dave.
and second to last place team coming in.
Do you remember?
Flipping the script,
last season,
Kate.
Where they it was just different to the teams, the points racing. All of a sudden we got to teams time trial week and it was like, excuse me, what have you been doing? Where have you been? And, I guess there's many options. I always like to say there's a couple of options, but there could be a jillion options. But the main ones are that they had a shocker last week, although Leah Thompson, she was actually really good last week. Or they're just kind of building form and this is the kind of event that suits them a little bit better. We did really comment, though, don't you remember last week, Dave, we were both a bit like, we know Cadence can do more than this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's good to see them delivering on that.
I agree, Kate. Something I thought was really interesting was if you took a big run at it, you could miss big time last week as well. It was all about the finish. We're back to the team's time trial, which is so much about consistency, being meticulous, and really having done that work. We were talking about what Martin and WTRL have done, coming up into 3 years of every Thursday. It really makes a difference, and it shows the teams that have been out there. Cadence is one of them. I'm really, really impressed by this ride. Let's see if they can hold on. But this has been something we've seen a fair amount of today. Teams. So it was fascinating to see that a team like Riot was fourth place after the first race in this season 3 of ZRL's 2022 season. Well, they won today. And what was even more amazing, and speaking to consistency, was the team that's leading now, and this is in America's East, Kate, the team that's leading hasn't won yet. They've been second twice. Two other teams have won. So consistency. It's going to be critical. So Brett Boniface or Boniface, it depends on how you're working it.
Yeah,
He's
what
out
mood
there
we're
with
in, really.
what mood? Exactly. Good call. Back to you, Kate, though, as it looks like the guys are out on course now, too.
Yeah, so something I really noticed last night, and it's a very good shot, a nice juxtaposition here between Cadence on the left, OMG on the right. Cadence on the left, traditionally in a team's time trial, you would look at them and say, oh my goodness, they look like a complete dog's breakfast. They are inefficient. They are not going fast. If you look over to the right of screen, and we're looking at OMG there, Travis Frazier on the front, we love him. And they look beautiful. It's like quite artistic. You look at that and you're like, now that's how you do it. The one thing that we need to remember, and this goes back to what you're saying about how well these teams have developed through the WTRL teams time trials, is the algorithm in Zwift is such with drafting that you don't need to be in the straight line like you do in real life. So when you are riding an efficient teams time trial, and gee, I hope I didn't put the hex on Cadence by saying that, because I'm just seeing a few gaps open up. So I'll cross my fingers and knock wood for that one. Don't want to give them commentator's curse. But it was quite easy last night to look at some of the teams and be like, they cannot possibly be going as fast as they could be. But in fact, they were just, really advanced in their understanding of the game and the gamification aspects and the drafting within Zwift. So that's been pretty sensational to watch that develop as well. And they are going at pretty high speeds. So the fellas over on the right, their powers, I actually have to say that I'm expecting them to pick up a little bit. I feel like they might be going out quite conservatively. And that's based on some of the powers we were seeing last night in APAC when the riders were on the front and really pushing it hard. Aero in particular. Dave, I'm interested. We had quite a few technical dropouts in APAC. So Sam Hill was a big name on the Aero team that got left in the pens, and that was a bit of a bummer. But it was interesting then to see, there's that buzzword again, which teams were really rattled by a missing rider and which teams you wouldn't have noticed. And Aero dominated in the end, and it was easily forgotten that Sam Hill wasn't there.
It's a big rider to be missing, talking about Sam.
I want to go back.
Yeah. Kate, what you were saying about a minute ago about some teams looking really, really slick out there, OMG would be a great example here. They're mobbing up a little bit right now, but clearly, the team's poetry in motion, good way to put it. Well, your point was so valid. I know that if I could bring Nathan on board, he would completely agree with me here. There's this Wahoo LaCole team, Lizzie Brook and company today, out racing in EMEA. Dog's Breakfast is a perfect way to describe it. For the first 15K.
It's very descriptive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And they never had four riders together at any point. There was someone off the front, off the back. It was bananas. But certainly not the way to execute a team time trial. And every time that Nathan would bring up the splits, they were going faster and faster. And it was mind-blowing, actually. I'm trying to remember the name of the rider. She was Irish. It was a new name to me. And so ultimately at the end of the day, she put out about 4.5 watts per kilo. She was the rider that they had to nurse. Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable numbers. And she was the, air quotes, was the rider that had the most trouble staying with the team. It was absolutely amazing to see what happened for her. And it turned out Nathan found out it was only her third
Travis shot in the
race
hole.
that she was doing in the
Nice.
A's.
Good hand up.
So we're
Wow.
going to
Good
go
hand up,
listen
Brad.
to some live comms right now. It sounds like we're tapping into, I think Nathan has OMG. They killed Kenny. Let's hear what's going on there. We'll see if it comes through. We're trying to tap in right now, Kate.
Yeah.
They just
Right.
swapped off, it sounds
Right.
like. So we'll see what we can get. So that's one of our all-time favorite teams on screen right now. Dan Pedrosa. Brett is an addition
Gonna lose
to
a
the
little on the
team.
uphill
Certainly
here.
a rider they were happy to onboard.
Peacher on in 30. 30 seconds.
Well, that is it's always interesting hearing team communications, because communication is the 100% most important element of this kind of race, isn't it? I noticed that there were some public messages popping up last night in the race, and I wondered if that was because with sweaty fingers they weren't able to make it a private message, whether it was by mistake or whether it might in fact be, and this is kind of nefarious, Dave, might in fact be a message to put some of the other teams off.
All right.
So let's see if we can get the DS in now, because this will be really interesting. We're just waiting for that to come through. Boniface, I do like to say it like that. Thank you for tolerating me, Brett, in calling you that. He's riding very solidly on the front, very smooth, very good power numbers. This is the kind of momentum I've really expected from these guys.
I'm fine. I was just wanting everyone to get up the pace.
All right, we're going to move on.
Right, sounds like we haven't
got
that
Brad
through
on
yet, Dave.
right now.
All right. So this is again, so 6 riders, the maximum you can start with. 4th is the critical. That's the crux of the situation. Your 4th rider is where you get your time. 30K. Actually, it's really right around 29K of racing out here. There's a long lead-in, as Cy was talking about, and the lead-in is rugged. The most significant climbing that you do on this course, and again, you can tell by the name, there's not a ton of climbing here in London, but it's tough getting onto the course proper, or the 2 laps that you do. So early going. Now, this is OTR Hayes as we're in with the guys. Or mixed,
right, OTR Hayes,
say.
John Bird, gee, he was, okay, so we've forgotten to mention, and this is my bad, I take responsibility for this, Dave, our 5K to go hero. We're going to do that tonight, even though it's a team's time trial. So I guess we've got a question there, Dave, and I'd love people to jump in for anybody watching and give us your thoughts on this. But should our 5K hero be an individual or a team? What do you think?
Before we answer that, and so I'll think about it, we tried to do team earlier, but then we went with an individual with Caleb Carl. So I did want to. So you remember the finish that we had for this group last week, where what we saw when we actually had the back-end API, it turned out it was a little bit different. Well, you know who deserves a good sportsmanship award for an awesome attitude and understanding how, how this all works, and with people on computers around the globe, all, the broadcast all happening out of Wisconsin. Dan Pedrosa, who ultimately won on the screen. I think he ended up second, is my guess, as Brian Diddy ended up having the fastest time. Dan's attitude was absolutely fantastic about it. He understood. He was a little bummed, thought he won, but realized, well, this is how it works in esports. And he realized, I'll be back to live another day. And then I saw from the karma chapter, his business is doing better than ever post-COVID. So at the end of the day, he's just a good dude. I'm just happy to so maybe he gets my 5K to go hero just based on attitude. Can I vote on him?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to certainly put that at the top of the list for consideration.
It counts for something.
Last night it does. Yeah. In APAC, it went to Kimberly Kern-Stokes, who was on the winning team for the women's. It was also her birthday, and she was just pulling some magnificent turns. Now, just quietly, I think that was like her little birthday goal, because she was really kind of doing the lion's share of the work. But talking about Dan Pedrosa, Dave, I don't know if you caught the results from the Amstel Gold Race on the weekend.
I did.
where Benoit Cosnefroy, he thought he had won. He had a very big celebration. They announced him as the winner, and turns out Michael Kwiatkowski actually
Well,
won. So,
so
yeah,
I'm not
that was
sure if
one of those
so
ones.
very quickly in defense of that public address announcer, I don't know that it was announced as much as someone told Benoit that he had won. More like a hanger
Oh,
on.
yes.
So it was
Definitely.
right. So
I think that's a good point, Dave, because you are the man who does that announcing. And yes, it's certainly not his fault. Definitely not his fault. Any mistake, he will only ever announce what he is officially
yeah.
given to do. So good pickup.
Well, thanks. And I have to say, Benoit had one of the best. So again, he must have seen how Dan handled things, and he said, "Well, I'm going to be classy too," because his comment was, "Well, if I was crying about being on the podium at Amstel Gold, I should quit cycling." Right. And then I saw one of his
I tend to agree.
Yes. And hey, you know what was really interesting to me is someone was like, "Oh, controversy about photo finish." Is like, "Oh, there was no controversy. It just took them a little while to read it, but there was no question who won that
Yeah.
race." It
Yep.
was and that
Yeah.
was nice to see Michael Kwiatkowski get that win. He's a special rider as well. So, oh boy, you know what? Photo finish in real life or here on Zwift, it's always a thing, right? And it's because these races are so competitive. And this is what we've even in these team time trials, we've seen teams, Kate, pushing so hard in the finish that in the finale that they're right on the edge of they're either going to win or they're going to blow the team up. And that's racing at its best.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And fun fact, my first ever pro race was the Amstel Gold Race in
Is that right?
2001, and I got third. Yep. It was
Get out. You've
my
been on the.
really only. I
Oh, that's a
have,
great.
yes.
See, that's not
I
a
think
fun
I
fact.
was
Okay. Fun facts are like you've
I was
had
only
8 cats
18,
in
and
your
it was
life or
not a pretty
something.
day of racing.
19-year-old
Yes,
Kate
I
Bates,
think it
little.
was. Yeah,
That's huge. And I'm thinking like
ignorance
this
is
is your
bliss
first
on a
trip to
course
Europe.
like that.
Was it your
Yeah,
first time to
yeah,
Europe? Oh,
absolutely.
that's
I
great, Kate.
bit of culture shock as well there as well. But my sister had gotten second at Junior Worlds on the same finish up the Cowberg a couple of years, like the year or two earlier, and so I felt like it was a little bit of a family thing. Enough about me though. Let's go back to the racing because we're getting some results coming through from some of these intermediate splits. This is the women's C. The herd
Oh,
of
good.
Misfit Meerkats are currently leading the way at that 14-kilometre, which is the halfway mark, so the end of one lap. They did win last week, but where we've got a little bit of play around here is Coalition Synthesis, who was second last week. They are sitting 10 seconds at the halfway mark behind the Meerkats. So Herd is having a very strong day today in the team's time trial.
Well, not many teams have pulled that off, so good for them here. The Meerkats have a tremendous amount of experience, don't they, Kate? Seems like we've seen, well, both the Misfits and the Mischievous Meerkats, Coalition Synthesis. So it's worth noting here that the team start versus the WTRL, where it's kind of a reverse GC seed or based on your performance the previous week, fastest teams start last. Well, we have the top ranked teams from the previous week start first here and work our way down. So that's where it's like a cyclocross race in that aspect, Kate. I know Australia maybe not huge on cross, but where when you see a high number up there in the first 10, like if you see a 28 running in the first 10, you know that rider had to have started back on the fourth or fifth row. So that's huge to have
Yeah.
passed that many riders, right? You
Yep.
can't do that with road racing. The number, it doesn't work that way. But you can do it here. If you see one of these teams that's starting, like if Betty Squad ends up with the fastest time on this table, and these are the splits we're looking at from 14K now, well, you know they've made a huge jump up, and we have seen teams do that today, Kate. But the Meerkats look really solid, don't they?
They do look really solid, and we are seeing that a lot of teams, like houses, if you will, that apologies, you can
That's
probably hear
fine.
my
No,
4-year-old who's just come in to
your
say hello.
assistant, your
We're
assistant,
seeing,
yeah.
yes, my assistant for the evening. We're seeing a lot of these like houses or big teams where all of the teams are really rising in certain areas, and Herd is one of those where their teams are really coming together very well for some overall results. But as you rightfully point out, we've had a little bit more movement here. Like West Coast, look at how both of their teams have jettisoned up. Coalition Synthesis, I'm surprised by where they're at, to be honest. It is all very tight, though. Like we're talking about, 8 seconds between second and third, only another 3 back and only another 7 back. So let's not close the door on what could happen. That's at the halfway mark. And it is common, isn't it, to see teams start fairly hard and then, not be able to finish it off quite as well. And the other way around, Dave, we see sometimes too where they start quite conservatively and then realise they've still got a little bit in the tank. So a really big jump from West Coast Coalition, the C1 mob. They have really lifted their pace. So is that in response to starting very conservatively, or are they just going for gold and trying to see if they can hang on toward the end?
Well, they've gone from 5th to 2nd as far as where they started based on last week to right now. So that's huge for them. That's a nice delta, a nice gain there. Kate, I have the American to Australian conversion question for you. Here I would say,
Oh, I like these.
yeah, we enjoy these typically, sort of in the vein of pickle juice. So here in America, we might say, I would bet dollars to donuts. All right. So that would be a saying. Right. Is there an Australian equivalent to that? Meaning you're super sure
Not that
of
comes
something.
to mind. I would bet dollars to. I'm going to have a think about that.
Okay. All right. So
and think about what our equivalent is. But we certainly, that's not a term we use.
So I was going to say, I bet dollars to donuts. There's not a rider out here that isn't at their limit right now. It is so hard to eke out these seconds. And you can see that this ride from West Coast Coalition, this is huge for them. I mean, so they have now slotted in second fastest time out here. They could climb way up the points table, as this is Coalition that we're in with now. Actually, this is WCC1 that we're looking at now. So West Coast Coalition 1, the team that we're talking about, who having such a strong ride. I think we're up to 3 coalitions.
Yes, well, there are. There's quite a lot.
3 of 7. Yeah.
Sure. Which is great, though. And you often see that in APAC, actually, with Aero. You'll have Aero 1, 2, 3, and down they go across
Socks
every
for
league.
Watts
so it's cool to have them.
Yeah, we've had Socks for Watts doing that too, where just so many, it's a franchise, right? There's just so many riders that they split up. And that's why we see like the herd of meerkats here as well. There's misfit ones, mischievous
I like all the different
ones.
herds they come up with. And I do like that they're meerkats, because I think that they're wonderful. We have a company in Australia. You'll have to YouTube the advertisement, Dave, called Compare the Market. And their mascot is a meerkat, and it is very, very funny. So I think that the herd of meerkats may have something to do with this delightful little character from Compare the Market. But I'll leave you to Google that afterwards.
I'm no zoologist, Kate, but I thought meerkats were African. They're not Australian, or are they? Do they live in Australia?
No, they're not. No, heavens no. I mean, we've got a lot of
sub-Saharan. Right, yeah.
Desert, but
they
are
like
definitely African. Yeah.
Thank you. Nathan has just done the research. Southern Africa is where they live. So kind of like a small mongoose. They're incredibly cool. And I could see how, as an advertising vehicle, they would be as good as penguins, Kate. And penguins are obviously a killer marketing bird. And owls. I think
killer
Nathan was going.
Bird. Gosh.
Well, so owls here in the United States represent wisdom and good eyesight, I think, and so that you see them in a lot of ads for things. I don't know if that holds true in Australia. Are owls considered wise in Australia?
Yeah, they are, but I would say that we're not overly owl friendly here.
You're not owl lovers.
Tend to use. Yeah, we're not owl lovers unless you're a Harry Potter fan, and that might be a different story. Do you reckon, given the rate at which WCC1 are improving and speeding up, I'm wondering if they might put a little bit of a dent in the Misfit Meerkats lead coming through this 22 mark. Now, if they come through at 22K, too far behind, there's only 6K to go, so we need to bear that in mind. But I've got my eye on that.
I'd say if they're within 10 seconds, I almost think I'd favor them at that 22K check. So we've seen it before out here, teams who got their pacing and scheduling just right. Kate, you've spent so much time on the velodrome in your cycling career. You know how, the numbers and the maths associated with cycling. It's really quite amazing when you have a director who really gets it right. That's a great look at what meerkats are all about. Now, there's a solo meerkat, and usually they're perked up. Someone is always checking things out. They're very nervous about
there they are. They're cute, aren't they? They do stand on their hind legs. And there they are.
So they're always worried that a lion or a vulture or something is going to eat them. So they never look too relaxed, do they?
They can relax in Australia because they're not going to come across any such creature.
They're probably in a zoo if they're in Australia.
Yes, they are in zoos, and it's just tourist cameras that get all up in their face that they need to worry about.
Paparazzi. Okay, so 29K. I know you probably see different numbers, but it really is super close to 29K out here. They finish on the red mall here. As looks like we've got OTR now, 6 riders together, moving as a unit. And they certainly look good, don't they? So this is the guys in the A's. They're more than halfway through. So they started 4th and are still 4th out here. 17:57 fastest time from Oh My God, They Killed Kenny. So it's close because on the Rivet Hayes, Kate, only, let's call it 8 seconds back.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm interested also in TFC Scorpion because they're doing very well considering where they started. But gee, it's close, isn't it, between
these are really fast times.
They really are, and close times as well.
Yeah, that's 7:50. We saw a bunch of crushing. I'm going to ask Nathan to help me remember, but I thought that next, Kate, was at 8 flat at that 6K check.
Ooh.
And so, thank you. Our producer's the best in the world. And I mean, to be able to do this is incredible. But I'm pretty sure that this is the fastest split we've seen all day long at both 6 and 14K from Oh My God, They Killed Kenny. This team is at fuego right now.
That is very impressive. I do think it's pretty impressive as well how each season they just get faster and faster and faster. Duff was very good. Ooh. Oh. Cheesecake Crew, check that out. No pins in the men. This is a really good way to look at it from EMEA.
Kenny's quicker
finishing split there.
1 second. Oh my God, They Killed Kenny.
Ooh, they are. They started at the same pace and they're ramping it up a little bit. So 28:11 is what we're looking for at the 22K mark for OMG if they want to kind of best the time of the day, the splits of the day. But you're right. That is absolutely hoofing it along.
And they're still crushing.
But so is on the Rivet Hayes. That would put them right up there as well. So there's quite a few of these teams who, especially at the 14-kilometre mark, are really on the money.
They always say in the NBA without the Lakers and the Celtics, the league would be nowhere near what it is, and it was because of the amazing competition. Similar to Kate, steel sharpens steel. And without something to race against and clash against, you never get better. And these two teams benefit from each other. Oh, my God. They killed Kenny and On the Rivet Hayes. I mean, these are two monster teams just really battling. And if you want to get faster, Kate, when you get to this level, it's really hard to find. I mean, it's hard to find teammates because nobody can do what these guys are doing. And it's really hard to find people to compete with. So this is epic. Bringing on Brett Boniface, that's worth more than a second.
Yeah, I mean, hasn't he been a revelation? But that was kind of last season as well that we started seeing how well he was attacking and really putting himself up as kind of the strongest link on the team in the last season. So he's sharpened his skills even more. And they do, OMG have a really, really good squad. I always talk about on paper, but on paper, you have to think that in every race, they have a very big opportunity to actually take away the win. Did I just see a Yenzi on the back of that jersey? I haven't noticed that before.
Fondo. I don't know if it still exists, but it was a Grand Fondo in Marin County, which is just San Francisco Bay Area there. That's the jersey that they use. I should
It's a
shout
bit
out the whole
cool,
team
isn't
here.
it?
Yeah, this is Eric Flanders that we're looking at. I wonder if he's part of the Flanders family out of Minnesota. There's a bike shop in Minneapolis that's a legendary shop, a racer's shop that goes back, I'm going to say, into the 60s. That's called Flanders Cycles. And that's the last name of the family. There's some brothers that own it that have been racers. Is Philippe Nystrom back in racing? If he is, that's incredible. I saw that his injuries weren't, it's a broken rib. It wasn't as bad as maybe we feared. He was able to not have to have another operation.
Which is good.
If he's racing, that is nuts. And his name is on the list today. Is Philippe out here? No, he can't be. He must be directing. He must be. Philippe is our friend, the Costa Rican wonder. And if you've been following our broadcast, you know that we're big fans of what he's been doing. So he must be directing. If I find out differently, I'll let you know. Though Peter Mogg, absolute legend himself, Travis Frazier, one of our favorites, Kate. This whole team's been just great to get to know Michael Grenier as well. So Dan, Eric, Philippe, Michael, Peter, and Travis out here on that, oh my God, they killed Kenny team. Want to make sure that On the Rivet Hayes gets their due shout out as well. See, there's 2 On the Rivet teams today. On the Rivet, Blaze and Hayes. Actually, it's even 3, isn't it?
Blaze and Hayes. That's what's our third one? We've got
Rule
Blaze,
5.
Hayes. Oh,
and Rule 5.
Yeah. I'm just not sure that Rule 5 fits in with Blaze and Hayes. I think they've gone against naming convention. They're looking really smooth though, aren't they, Dave? Because we've talked about kind of the dog's breakfast approach and how a good and effective and efficient team's time trial on Zwift doesn't always look the same as what it does in real life. But if we look at their speed and the power output, as well as the heart rate, we can see that they're actually moving along very efficiently in this group, because they are actually on a little climb here. So 46k an hour up a slight incline is not mucking around.
We should have another award. We just brought in the 5K hero, and boy, that's going to be a tough one.
Oh yeah, actually, it's time. But Dave, it's time.
It's getting there, right? So,
it's more than time.
That's your job, Hotshot. You're the executive in charge of that. So, I did want to, while you're thinking about it, Kate, my newest idea is the biggest mover of the day, the team that is able, because today, like Riot, they went from 4th place last week to winning today. So I'd call that a 3-spot move. Has anyone done more than that? And the answer is yes, but not necessarily in the A's. But we've got all the great B's and C's racing. Nathan's done a tremendous job of trying to highlight all the different levels and great battles that we've had. But this one's going to be epic, although the advantage is opening up right now. As, oh my God, they killed Kenny in with a 27.55 at the 22K checkpoint, the third and final check before the finish at 29K out here. This is Fauscher, Riot, Ryder.
Yep.
All right, did you make your choice?
Through as well. I did, Dave. I know that this is a collaborative effort, but I think you're going to be pretty happy with this one. The 5K hero, can we have our little fancy sting,
I always
please,
trust
Nathan?
you. Best colleague ever.
Yeah. I always like to have a little dance along to the sting. I'm not sure. Where's the sting? It'll come in a second. And then we can announce.
Oh, the last time the sting jammed. The sting jammed and disrupted the broadcast for about 3 minutes earlier.
Okay.
We're asking for Kate to submit her selection officially through a back channel now. We want to make sure that isn't corrupt or hacked by. anyone. Nathan
Yes,
does
it
everything right.
needs
It's
to
being
be a very
encrypted.
clean process.
It's being encrypted from Australian into American. All right, this is Hill that we're with. OTR is the team, and they're fighting for the top spot out here today. They're 4K from the finish. And this is where it really gets tough now as far as do you sacrifice riders, Kate? We've seen like Daniela Estrate get it. And I'll turn it back to you, Kate. Who is your 5K to go hero today?
I just had a nice little dance here. What a shame I'm not on the screen. I'm joking. This is for me the pick. We've got Dan Pedrosa, early called, but I think it is a very fair pick given last
Love
week.
it.
Dave, and also
Thank
the
you,
whole OMG squad, because they are lighting it up out there. Their time, very well picked by you too, to get Nathan to look up those intermediate splits. But they're absolutely setting the course on fire, making up for a little bit of disappointment from last week. So I think that they deserve our award for this week, our 5K heroes. I'm wondering when at some point, if we get like their avatars get a little party hat or something. I feel like a game developer needs to work on that for us so that we can do that. But at the end of we'll keep a note of who we're giving our hero awards to, and at the end of the season, maybe Anna will send them some pineapple lumps or something from New Zealand. And if you don't know what they are, they're a delicacy of sorts. Dave, I'll send Tim Tams. Anna can send pineapple lumps. Happy 5K hero.
Now Anna Russell is claiming to invent pineapple lumps because she, a couple of weeks ago, invented bread with cheese. So I don't know what is going on
lumps.
down in
Hold on. What do you think pineapple lumps are?
A can that you open up that has chunks of pineapple in it, sitting in pineapple juice.
No, Dave. Oh, Dave. No. Pineapple lumps are like a candy of sorts. They're little,
now you're
like
talking.
gooey, pineapple-y flavored that are covered in chocolate.
It would be appropriate for Anna to
We don't even
send
have
some
them
of
in
those
Australia,
to North
so.
America. Yeah. Okay, Anna, we would certainly love to try them.
They're very good. I mean, I think that perhaps customs would steal them and eat them, but
they probably would just chop them down. They'd be like, "What pineapple lumps?" And then you'd see chocolate smeared all over their lips. Yeah, right. So I'm sure you have experience with that with your assistants there at the broadcast center in Australia. So, Kate, I did want to note that I met Dan in real life when I was traveling with the Garmin tour a couple months ago.
I remember,
and Danny as well, his partner, wife, absolutely awesome people, part of our Zwift community, means so much to Nathan, what Zwift Community Live. We were talking to over 12,000 racers out here. Each one of you has a story. And so send them to us, certainly. Try to follow people back on Instagram. I try to like Kate is a great person to follow on Instagram. She's always got cool stuff going on down there in Australia, and same thing with Nathan. So it's really fun to be able to be connected in that way. I thought it was the best thing that happened for me personally, Kate, during COVID, and it's continued well on past that, hasn't it? I mean, I wouldn't say we're out of the COVID area, but we're out of that mindset, and I hope. Anyways, and now it's just I love this community, and it's so much fun to learn about your stories. So please share them or each other's stories if people are shy, right, Kate? You can always
Indeed.
put in for your partner or friend.
Well, I heard a very funny thing about COVID in a meeting this morning, Dave, and that was that COVID turned all the men. This was a specific reference to the men into either chunks, hunks, or monks, which made me laugh. And so you can self-select which category. But I do think that that Zwift certainly helped a lot of people from turning into monks and chunks. I think Zwift was probably helpful on the hunk front. Helpful across the board, can we say?
No doubt. I would have to say that not only physical but mental health that we got from that during this time. And you know what, Kate? I mean, honestly, I look at you on that list, right? The friends that you have are absolutely, always look forward to Tuesday nights. These guys are going to look forward to finishing. We're going to highlight WCCC. They had a great ride out here today. This is the team that was second at that split, and it was so. It actually didn't look like they were quite going to catch the misfit Meerkats out here, but it also didn't look like they were in danger of being caught by the mischievous Meerkat. So, Meerkat sandwich for West Coast Coalition.
Wow. So let's just take a look at the splits here. But Cadence is certainly 3 seconds though with
Close,
6K to go in that split. So I'm dead keen to see what ends up happening there in the overalls.
That's close enough that it, who knows,
Oh,
right?
and second and third tied. Hold on. DDC essentially down in third. Now, I don't know. I need an answer. Maybe
Three
Nathan
teams
can
in
answer
3
this
seconds.
if you can't, Dave. But I am curious about what happens in a dead heat. Do we time down further than the second? I'm not sure.
No.
Maybe if in the back end they do that, or how they then decide who might be in second or third if they have tied times. So what's the answer to that one?
We've seen it get very, very close, but I've never seen an actual tie to the thousandth of a second. So the count, and so my answer is going to be that isn't an issue because the backend API can be so precise. That's a Martin question for sure. That's at the very highest level. But that would be my guess that they're able to tell you they don't need to go to a tiebreak, and there would not be. That would be unfair as a tiebreak, in my opinion, to go to the fifth rider because that was, you know what I'm saying? I mean, typically when you're done, you're done. So that would mean that if you got dropped,
that would be unfair.
You'd be asked to keep racing. Oh my gosh! But so
it might be a case of like the fastest midway split or something like that. Like,
you're
if
dreamer,
that's tied,
kid.
It defers to another one.
You know
that's
what I'm
how I
say,
would do
Kate?
it. However, I'm not in that position.
I would say let's flip a coin, but at the finish line afterwards. But one thing's for sure, it's a problem we won't have, I think. So, but I said for sure, and I think so. I canceled myself.
They kind of cancelled. That's all right. That's all right. It fits in with cancel culture, Dave. So you are spot on the mark. Now, looking at these times here, and we only have to 22. The flag indicates that they have finished, although we are not seeing that final split. If that is my interpretation of that, so OMG certainly with a solid gap with 6K left to go, 16 seconds ahead of On the Rivet Hayes. That would be pretty difficult to bring back. It's TFC Scorpion who have had, a really stand-up ride. So they're just finishing now. They've got 1.6 kilometres left to go. And they were only 7 seconds ahead of On the Rivet Rule 5. So let's see what they can finish this off with. Hopefully they can all stay together and just race their way to the finish. Because it's certainly a different finishing order than I think we would have picked at the beginning.
This was a tough one to pick, to tell you the truth. One thing I would have done is just cross-referenced what teams have been racing on Thursdays at WTRL, and that would have helped move them up the list for me for sure, because experience is a huge factor in the team time. Oh, Brian Diddy, last week's winner here for TFC, all-around great guy. And he's got his TFC team down to the final 400 meters or so. They'll come around this bend and hit the red, there it is, the mall. And Brian with his TFC team, 37:15, their running time. So where is TFC Scorpion? 28:51. So it looks like, they need to keep it on, keep on the gas, keep the flame high, because they've got On the Rivet Rule 5 just a few seconds behind them back at that check at 22K. So that's 7K ago. But who knows what's happened out there as they bring it on home. Time taken off of the fourth rider here.
And some of the teams, they start with 4 riders, and you can actually see, depending on how good your eyesight is, next to the team name and under the bike icon is the number of riders that they do have out. So all riders have at least 5, which is good. They can start with 4, but that makes it a little bit of a close race toward the back end if they're starting to have any fatigue. But there are a couple, Dirty Rascals, Riot, and Towle 26 TDJ, who only started with 5. The rest of them started with 6. And that's Towle 26 we're looking at the moment. They started with 5. They've still got 5, so they've done a good job.
Yeah, keeping the whole team rolling out here. A few teams still on course as we wrap it up. Craig Taylor, Zwifter, works at Zwift. Does a lot of stuff in the tri world. Great to see Craig out here. So this
It is good to see the whole Zwift community supporting it, isn't it? The office guys, we often see quite a lot of the
I love it.
Zwift employees getting out there and partaking in the racing, which is good because you know that then they're experts at their job and making sure they keep pretty current in their knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. Their occupation is their avocation for sure. And we see that from your Australian Zwifters and clearly, around the globe for sure. So everybody into the final few K here. This is the second week of a final season of the 2022 batch of 3 seasons. As we're just getting things going, it's going to be fun, no doubt about it. We've reinforced the teams. There have been some changes, actually, Kate, really quickly, just kind of reviewing the rules and the excitement for the upcoming knockout races that we're going to be having on Zwift. These are going to be taking place starting not this Wednesday, not tomorrow, but, well, I guess it depends. You're already into your Wednesday, aren't you? But we will be on Wednesday, North America, next week. April 20th is a better way to put that. Getting things going with a new format. You'll be hearing a lot more about that as the excitement is building. Dirty Rascals Affogato. Nathan is now an Affogato expert. He had one hand delivered to his house, and I'm sure he'd tell you they're awesome. 32:35 the time. Fastest. They are amazing. There's no doubt about it. Espresso and good quality vanilla ice cream. Kate, can I get you one there?
Oh, or 2 or 3 or 1 every morning, I think.
Yes,
I know they're supposed to be
yes.
desserts, but that's a yes. I'm not an evening coffee consumer, so I would not be able to do it in the evening. But I think that
A breakfast
having
one,
ice
sure.
cream as part of breakfast is really quite civilized. I think
I
we
bet
should
your
do it
girls
more,
would-
in fact.
I bet your girls would agree.
Oh, I think
Sure,
so
Mom.
too. They were trying to have Oreos for breakfast this morning, so
I don't
look, there
blame
was
them. Yeah.
a discussion that went on, let's say, but while I'm on this broadcast, who knows what they're digging into down there, Dave? I can't be sure. I can't be sure.
Look for
We're
crumbs.
watching
Kate.
ATP come in now. Dave, again, 5 riders, and again, you can see which team started with 5 or 6. Also, another pretty tight division here, especially second to third. So we're coming to the end of all of these categories. Some NZ Bros in the Ds, which is cool.
So you can always go to WTRL.racing to find results. We're going to cover that for you, though, as best we can. But certainly if you want to dig in more, learn more about racing yourself and all things WTRL, you'll find that at the .racing website. So let's go ahead and take a look at how things played out here today. It was a big day, that's for sure. Second week, but saw a lot of upsets. Saw some teams really climbing the ladder as we say goodbye to London. We'll be back. We'll be back, right?
We will always be back. So let's take a look at the results for the day, and we'll have a look at the series in a second because that's also really interesting. But Cadence did end up taking it out, so that was sensational. 10 seconds back to ATP Racing Vespid. DDC back in third at 12 seconds after they started really very quickly. NZ Bro, Wahine Towle, remembering that they are warrior women is what Wahine Towle means. And if I'm saying that wrong, please somebody tell me how to say it correctly because I want to be respectful to Maori culture. West Coast Coalition B coming in 5th. Pretty close across the board, Dave.
Yeah, great racing for sure. So check this out now, Kate and everybody. This is awesome here. 3 teams tied at 37 points. Cadence was 5th coming into this, and now they're 4th, but only 1 point out of 1st. Basically tied. That's what it's all about. Kate, we'll be following America's West Division
Wow.
1B very, very closely. That is a hot spot of racing excitement right now. So let me run through them for you. As NZ Bro, 37 points. Dutch Diesel Cycling, 37 points. ATP, 37 points. 36 for Cadence, West Coast Coalition. B at 33. They're far from out of the story. And then Team F3, FBW. Unfortunately, they scratched in the first race, but they're back and picking up points, sitting in 6th. So good to have them back here. That's the Bs.
Yeah, tight racing. Let's take a look at the Cs. West Coast Coalition C1 did take the win ahead of the mid. Gee, that must have been an absolutely blistering final 14K, especially because they only had 4 riders. So that's wow. I mean, can we like retrospectively give them the 5K Hero Joint Award? I think that was just wow. We've also got the Meerkats obviously sitting there in 2nd. Coalition Synthesis in 3rd. Yeah, there we go. That's for the WCC C1. I think that's well deserved. The Coalition 2 coming in 4th, and the Fearlets rounding out that top 5 there.
Let's see what we've got then. In the series now, we can take a look. So this combines the points from the first 2 races, and we've got a tie here as well. Coalition Synthesis and Herd of... I apologize there. That was what we just looked at. And then here we go. Coalition Synthesis tied with Herd of Misfit Meerkats on 37 points. West Coast Coalition 36. That's C1. C2 for West Coast Coalition right behind them with 34 points in 4th. 5th place right now for the Fearlets on 31 points, 20 for Herd of Misfit Meerkats. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to scratch Betty Squad C in our Women's West Division C. That's points after 2 races here in Season 3.
All righty, let's bring in the men's and see what happened there. OMG, they killed Kenny for the win. They were our original 5K heroes and remain it with Dan, but they took the win. Great riding from them. On the Rivet, Hayes coming in 22 seconds adrift. Those teams definitely the closest, a little bit back to TFC Scorpion, but they had a brilliant ride, a real uptick from last week, so I think there'll be some eyes on them moving forward. On the Rivet, Rule number 5 in 4th, Dirty Rascals Riot coming in 5th, ATP Racing Arsenic in 6th, on the Rivet, Blaze in 7th, and Tower 26 TDJ. They started with 5, they finished with 5. Great job from them. They finished in 8th.
All right, let's take a look at West Division 1B. I can't help but chuckle when I see Pickle Juice up there. It's a long-standing joke amongst Kate and I. TFC Pickle Juice taking the win here in Division 1Bs. It's on the Rivet, just 6 seconds back in 2nd. Red Peloton B, 3rd place. They're very close, 17 seconds back. Look at this one. Wow. 4 teams within 23 seconds as Dirty Rascals, Bing Bong, 4th. Cryo, Jen, Mount Diablo, 5th. Dirty Rascals Grit 6th, Dirty Rascals Believers in 7th, KRT B, the Big Timbers in 8th. It's TFC Ronan 9th, Dr. Wilbar 10th, and GSZ Killer Bees. That's your 11th place team out here in the mixed men's America's West Division 1B. Still got a bunch of racers still out there finishing up. You can always go to WTRL.racing to see those results. But I'll throw it back to you. Was this the Affogatos that we looked at earlier? They're still racing. So you can find them at the website.
All righty. Well, that was another great week. Dave, next week they are headed to the Macquarie Islands. We've got Chasing the Sun. It is a points race, so points racing is back. I did love the scratch race. Bit of the traditionalist in me. Would love to see a few more of those, to be honest. They will have 5 segments throughout that for first across line and fastest through segment. So I would say everybody needs to go and practice their sprints. And I'm just going to throw it out there, Dave, because Anna Russell did last night. She reckons it's another bike change course. So game on for people who might be thinking about how to fine-tune their bike change out on course.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of discussion about that that'll be enjoyable. So great racing, everybody. A lot of heart shown out there today. And Kate, always a pleasure. Thank you, Nathan Guerra, as well.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. We'll see you next week.